Happy St Patrick's Day, my guzzlers. We're going to do a little speciality bake for St Patrick. We're going to make some Shamrock Macarons filled with a Bailey's, an Irish Cream Liqueur Ganache filling. This is a recipe I found. I wasn't actually looking for St Patrick's. I was looking for a different macaron to try, and I got this from Pies and Tacos, their channel, and up popped this one. So I thought, let's do this for St Patrick. Shamrock Macarons. So as usual with making macarons, it's important we degrease everything. So I've gone through with some spirit vinegar. I've cleaned my stand mixer bowl and whisk. I've cleaned out this bowl that I've got 100 grams of egg whites in. I'm going to need a whisk for that. Degrease that. More or less any tool that's going to end up going into the meringue mix, as it were, I've degreased. Okay, so I've got a pound of water on there, and I'm going to start by putting my egg whites over that water. Don't add it in the water. And then I've got 100 grams of ordinary caster sugar, so that's going in there. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to gently whisk these two together while we sort of warm up the egg whites. Okay, we don't want to cook the egg whites, hence we don't want that in the water. But you can possibly hear it's a little bit gritty at the minute. We want to get all that sugar nicely dissolved. So that's nicely dissolved up. Don't overheat this, it will lead to wrinkly macarons, and it's got a little bit of a froth to it. And so what I'm going to do at this point, I'm just going to transfer that over into the stand mixer bowl. I'm just going to transfer that onto there so I don't get any water in there. Okay. Now we're just going to whisk this gently for about 30 seconds on low till it starts all frothing up. And whilst that's doing that, we're just going to prepare the dry ingredients. So I've got a sieve over a bowl, and I've got 105 grams of icing sugar, and that's going to go into the sieve. And I've got the same amount, 105 of almond flour, and all we want to do is get that sieve through because we don't want any lumps in it. And I'm now just going to start turning up gradually the whisk, and we're going to do this until we've got some nice stiff peaks. Okay, that when we pull the whisk up, the peaks stay. They can start flopping a little bit at the top, but we don't want the peaks collapsing. So that's got the meringue nicely whipped up, and what we're going to do now is I'm just going to remove this bowl from the stand mixer, and we're going to gently fold in that sifted almond flour and icing sugar. I'm just going to get the stand mixer out of the way. Now, being that we're doing shamrock, we need a bit of green food colouring. So I've got a leaf green gel here. Gels are better than liquid colours for making macarons, because otherwise you're adding obviously liquid to it, which you don't want to do. So I've added in that colour, and then, like I say, we tip that in and we fold it gently, recommended in like a J, because what we try not to do is knock the air out. So you're going to want your baking trays prepared. I've got some silicone mats on there, and I've got Shamrock templates underneath. I'll try and remember to put the link to Pies and Tacos site so that you can download them. And I've also got 2 piping bags prepared, one of which has got quite a small round tip for doing the stems, and then the other one which has got quite a large, well, not a larger one, but slightly larger, which is where we'll do the sort of the heart leaf shape. So not quite all mixed in yet, and it's not quite flowing off yet. You want to make sure you don't go too far with this, so it's better to, when you think you're almost there, pick it up and test it. And when it comes flowing evenly off, and you can like create little figures of 8, and they tend to stay in those shapes, then you know you've done enough. So I've got me bigger tip, and what I'm going to do is I'm just basically piping my shamrocks, the top halves, okay? So start with and the outside bit, and then drag it into the centre, so you get the sort of semi-heart shape, if you like. You're obviously going to need most of your mix in this bag. And then, like I say, with the thinner nozzle, we're just going to create the stem. So that's neatly made 18. I say neatly, that's made 18. And what we're going to do is just, as usual, give it a bit of a bang, and then just want to go through and get rid of any of the air bubbles that you can see. And then we just leave it for anything up to an hour to skin over before we'll be putting them in the oven. So they've had about 40 minutes and they've nicely skinned over. So now they're going to go in the oven, which has been preheated to what was it, 160. Okay, and it's best to do 1 tray at a time unless you're confident with your oven, and also rotate it every 5 minutes. And we're going to be cooking them for about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so that's the first tray out. We're now just going to let that cool completely, and when they cook, the other tray's done and they're all cooled completely, we'll make the ganache filling. Now for that you're going to want white chocolate. Now you need proper white chocolate with at least 20% solids in it. I've got the Calabat, well, I don't know, them things, and you know, they're fine, but be careful about just sort of a chocolate bar. That might not be right. Need some double cream, and I've got some Irish cream liqueur. Okay, you can add an optional amount, a small, tot of Jameson's Irish whiskey as well. I haven't got any, so we're just going to go with the Baileys, and we're going to finish them off with a little gold touch. Now we may as well start on the ganache because we need to let it cool so that it'll be the right temperature and consistency to be able to pipe it. So I've got a saucepan here, and I'm going to add to that 32 grams of double cream, and then I've gone a little bit over the top for that, so I'm going to put a little bit of that back. And I'm going to add 38 grams of the Irish liqueur, give it a bit of a mix. Now I've weighed out in a separate bowl 250 grams of the white chocolate, and what we're going to do now is we're now going to heat this up get it hot. We don't want it boiling, and be careful because it will try and boil over. And at which point we'll be adding it in to the chocolate to melt the chocolate. But I'm just coming up to a time to turn my macarons. So this will drive off any of the alcohol that's in that Irish cream liqueur. Hence the reason, if you wanted to, you could add about a 1/4 teaspoon. You're going to be careful you don't add too much liquid, otherwise your ganache is going to be too runny. So don't be tempted to think I'll give it a little bit more. But a 1/4 teaspoon of Jameson. When it's cooled down, whisk that into it. Just give it that alcoholic kick, if you like. But like I say, I haven't got any Jamesons. I haven't even got any other whiskey at the minute, so I can't add that. So there's not an awful lot of liquid here, but once this has melted, got up temperature, we pour it over that, and then we just cover it over, and we leave it, and we gradually check on it to stir it. If it needs a bit more warming, do it for like 5-second intervals in the microwave. But it's important we don't get the chocolate too hot, otherwise it'll split, and then that'll ruin it. And then we just need to leave it room temperature for at least an hour, or you could, if you want, fridge it. But if it starts going too solid, you're going to have to whisk it, which ain't a big deal, so that you can then pipe it. I've got a piping bag ready, even though I know it's a little bit way off yet. So this is just coming up temperature, just starting to come up to like a boil. So at which point I'm going to turn off the heat, and like I say, we're then just going to pour it over that chocolate. So having paired them up, what we're now going to do is we're just going to pipe some of that ganache into the bottom half. And then what we're going to do for a little finishing touch is having then sandwiched them together, because of course Ireland's all about leprechauns and lucky leprechauns and pot of gold. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give it a little spritz of gold, and there you go. There is, well, there are our Shamrock Macarons with a Bailey's or a Irish Cream Liqueur Ganache. So I'm just going to, forgot what that time was for. I'm just going to finish them off, and then I've got one broken one and I'll get it to taste. So like I say, I had one that was one was a bit deformed and one cracked in half. So so macaron, nice crisp outer, slightly chewy on the inside, excellent. Irish Cream Liqueur Ganache, spot on. Don't know what it'd been like with a bit of a kick of a whiskey in it. And although the gold is only there for decoration, obviously makes all the difference. So there you go. Happy St Patrick's Day. Shamrock Macarons.